Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Satya Nadella. Thank you, Satya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Satya, your customers are happy, your shareholders are happy, your employees are happy. What on earth are you doing with Microsoft? What's the secret? What's going on?
Look, I mean, the thing that I have at least tried to stay grounded, because in some sense, I don't know, I mean, I've got to sort of still completely get Reed's theory of joy and happiness, and I'll get grounded on that. But
maybe some pharmacology will help, perhaps, as we discovered.
The thing that I have tried to do is get much more focused on the sense of purpose and identity of Microsoft, which, I mean, quite honestly, I even asked this question of myself. Why am I at Microsoft? Why does the world need Microsoft? If you just say we disappeared, will everyone be well served? No one will miss us. No customer would care. And that's really been my line of questioning. That's, I think, given us a better sense of purpose. It's no different. In fact, I always try to remind myself, what was the first product that Microsoft created? It was Basic Interpreter for the Altair. So we were a tools company. We were a company built for hackers of the world, for the makers of the world, for the builders of the world. And I have always felt that we are at our best when we really express that identity with changing times, changing technology. It's not about being in love with the Altair in 2016. It is about being in love with Minecraft. It's in being in love with what's happening in AI and democratizing it. And quite honestly, that's what I have focused on, and that's what resonates with customers. That's what customers expect. You know, they're only going to be happy if we serve some purpose. And it's the same thing. For me, what gives me meaning as an employee at Microsoft is also us being able to express our identity in ways that the world values, the world cares about.
But you obviously, people talk about corporate culture. You've paid a lot of attention to this, and there you've just given us a brief summary of how of the way in which corporate culture is changing. Tell us so you focused on changing corporate culture. Tell us first of all, what was wrong with corporate culture before you became CEO, and what needed to change?
So first of all, I think about the one thing I've learned, if anything, in the last 2.5 or 3, close to 3 years now, is how important it is to think about that mission and culture. Those are the two bookends. A lot of strategies will come and go. Definitely technologies will come and go. But what you have to stay grounded on and constantly paying attention, especially a CEO, which I quite honestly, in spite of having spent all the years at Microsoft and being one level removed from CEO, I never thought of it as the first-class job of a CEO. Now I think I get it more than I did even 2.5, 3 years ago. And the reason for that is something actually, it's when you're very successful, you've had your idea, your concept, your capability that allows you to go after that concept, and the culture all reinforce each other perfectly. You're really on the top of your game. I mean, especially for a company like ours, where we were very successful, not once, twice, thrice, with many, many products. And so what happens is then a new concept comes along. One, you don't have the capability for it. So you got to go acquire it, build it, cultivate it. But guess what? Your culture will fight it. So that's one of the things that I went on the hunt for, saying, what is a culture that doesn't fight new concepts and new capability building? If anything, if a company like ours, which is after 41 years, and if we want to see the 42nd year and the 43rd year, you have to have that culture. And so I was inspired actually by work in child psychology by Carol Dweck in her work on mindset. And I said, when she has a very simple concept of mindset makes the entire difference. And it's if you have two people in school, one of them even with more innate capability, but is a know-it-all, and someone else who is got less innate capability but is a learn-it-all, you know that the learn-it-all ultimately will do better. And that applies to CEOs like me, it applies to companies, because after all, companies are an expression of all of us. And at least I would say our attempt, we'll never be done. The pursuit is not to be excellent next year. But we want to be able to push to be more a learn-it-all culture than a know-it-all.
And do you think Microsoft, frankly, was a know-it-all, had a know-it-all culture?
I think it comes with success. I mean,
because
think about it.
I've even spoken to people tonight who said that what characterized the culture before was my way or the highway. We know what's best. We know everything. We know what our customers want.
I mean, as somebody said to me, I think my father said this to me once, and he said, "Hey, early success is probably the worst thing that can happen in life," and that is true for even companies. We had a lot of success. And with it comes, when you start you see everything that's happening around you, and you say, wow, it must be because we're great. And it turns out that at some point, you have to be able to push yourself and say, how do we transition? I don't think so. I mean, after all, I'm a product of Microsoft. You got to remember that I've grown up all my life there. So I can't deny our past. I'm very proud of it, in fact. And if anything, though, for us to continue, we have to change the mindset.
How do you do that? I mean, how do you change a corporate culture which is especially associated with the founder and then with very, very, very powerful, prominent figures? It's a huge organization. It's through appointing the right people? Is it through your messaging? I mean, how do you go about doing what you seem to have done, which is a pretty radical change in the way the company views itself?
Look, I don't think it's any one thing, but for sure, I also think the job of the very top is to set the tone and the standards. I can't talk about a particular set of attributes or culture and not live it. You have to. It has to be genuine. It has to be authentic. But the one thing that I've tried to also reframe, and for myself as well as everyone at Microsoft, is what if you change this equation? Instead of saying that I work for Microsoft, what if Microsoft worked as a platform for every one of our 100,000 people? That's how I think about Microsoft. I'm at Microsoft, and all through the years, is because I felt, wow, what an amazing global platform to have impact. And that's what got me to sort of remain there, be ambitious for what we can do, what I can do. And that's, to me, the ultimate call. It's not like, of course, the CEO has to live the culture, has to, be able to make sure the leadership team lives those values. But if you can switch on every person, every employee's, every team member's own mindset to say, well, I'm not just working here, Microsoft's working for me, then you've achieved something.
You've changed, obviously, not only the culture, but very much the business strategy. Your big bet has been cloud computing. Again, you've got some very positive numbers for it. I think your target is for $20 billion of annualized revenue out of total $85 billion. I think you're at about $13 billion annualized now. So you've made great progress. How do you see cloud in the totality of Microsoft's offerings as you go forward? You're still Windows is still enormously important for what you do. Is that going to be steadily supplanted by cloud, by the revenues associated with the cloud computing?
So first of all, I broadly think about three major ambitions we have. Even on the cloud, for example, we have a cloud infrastructure business. Sure. We've had a traditional infrastructure business, which now we've obviously translating and transforming into a cloud business. We also have a productivity and a business process business. That is the Office as well as now Dynamics. Those are very, I'm very, very bullish about prospects even in business applications in combination with what we're doing in Office. And then we have a personal computing business. I actually think one of the interesting things is the most high-scale cloud service that Microsoft has is actually our Windows service because we have 1 billion plus PCs and devices calling home and need to get serviced. It's one of the higher scale cloud services we have. So we're transforming, even in the operating system side, both the business model.
Sure.
We're not necessarily trying to just build an operating system for an individual device, because the social complexity of our own world with devices going forward is you need an operating system for you across all of your computing. So that's why, whether it's a HoloLens and mixed reality or Xbox or your PC or Surface, to us it's all one Windows 10 operating system built for you. And so our goal is to invent new computers and new computing. We clearly missed the mobile phone, there's no question. And our goal is to now make sure that we grow new categories. And that's why, whether, two-in-one, think what we did with Surface. 3 years, 4 years ago, sort of people said, well, what is a two-in-one? Guess what? It's a growing category today, not just for us, but even for Apple. And so good. And so to me, placing new bets, whether it's VR, whether it's AR, whether it's different screen sizes, because I think that we're not done. In fact, if anything, the lesson learned for us was thinking of PC as the hub for all things for all time to come was perhaps one of the bigger mistakes we made.
So I want to come on to VR and AR and AI and other things too in a second, but the mobile, you mentioned mobile, and you said mobile was not a success for you, the Nokia acquisition was not a success. Is a Windows for mobile? Given how important mobile has become, and given the number of operating devices there are like that, is that a logical development for you? I know you've got some Windows.
We have devices which are phones today, but the place where we are focused on, given where the market is what is the unique thing that our phone can do? So for example, one structural thing that we have in terms of the software capability as well as the hardware capability is that we have a phone that in fact can replace your PC. Because it's the same way as we have a tablet that can replace your laptop. Those are the categories that we want to go create. We need some new form, new function, new value add. There's no point saying we have the same thing and we're the third ecosystem. You got to be able to add unique value and be in the hunt for what's the next high volume category. And that's really when I think about VR or AR, those are sort of what I think about.
So what are the applications of VR? We heard Reed just talk about it, and a lot of people say this, that it's, in the immediate future, it's a gaming platform essentially, rather than anything else. You and I were just talking about this, about its potential applications. Are there potential applications much broader than that really improve human productivity? Where do you, where are you placing, where do you see VR going? Where are you placing your bets?
First of all, I think the ultimate computer for me is this mixed reality world, or this mixed reality computer, where your field of view becomes an infinite display, where you see the world, and in the world you see virtual objects and holograms. To me, that is the ultimate computer.
So this is AR, this is augmented
reality,
reality, essentially.
That's right. And that's definitely what we're building with what we have today, even with HoloLens.
Yeah.
And the applications of it, of course, gaming. I mean, I would love, Minecraft and other gaming in mixed reality. But beyond that, there's, in fact, already many, many use cases of AR fundamentally changing. I mean, take education. Case Western Reserve today has an anatomy class that's being taught using AR. I mean, I always felt like, wow, if only, I'm an electrical engineering undergrad, and I never understood Maxwell's equations. And I said, wow, if only I had this, I would have been a better electrical engineer.
Satya, you're really a disappointment to us.
Yeah, I know. It's always been my dream, one day.
Yeah.
But education
I'll
is one.
discuss that with you later as well, if you like, as well as the meaning of paper.
Or even take something like Lowe's and what they're doing. They're changing completely how they're deploying. I mean, one of the things that I've learned a lot using the Lowe's example is home improvement is actually a fascinating process, because it requires what seemingly are infinite sort of trips to the store and back. But what if you could get to this store and in an AR session or a mixed reality session, in fact, not only imagine, but see what that home improvement project should look like, and then press order. And so pretty much I believe that every walk of life and every human activity, which today is mediated by computers in essentially 2D world, will be transformed by AR. There is a bunch of work. This is not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next year. But to me, that is the continuum we're on.
Is this going to address the classic sort of modern economic conundrum that we have all this extraordinary innovation, this technological innovation? We've seen it all. We're living through, what do you want to call it, machine age or whatever. And yet we know from the economic data that there has been not only has there been no increase in productivity, total factor productivity across the developed world, it's actually declined, and we're actually seeing the weakest overall productivity growth we've seen in the last 45 years. And again, there are differences of opinion about whether the numbers are not measuring correctly. What's your view? I mean, again, you are talking about things here where people are very excited about the potential for AR and VR and obviously AI, which we haven't got onto yet. Are we missing something? Is the world actually, are we just spending an awful lot of time spinning our wheels with this tremendous new technology innovation, but not actually improving the productivity that will really drive prosperity in the long term?
No, I think a lot about this. I mean, even in the OECD, and you said productivity stats, but fundamentally there's no growth.
Right.
And I'm
that's
sure
partly demographics and other things too, right? But yeah.
And so that's not good. That's not a stable situation for anyone in this room. And then yet, there is a lot to celebrate in terms of technology all around us. And so I do ask myself that question as to what is it? I somehow think that if the last 10 years have been characterized, by the way, if you read that book by Robert Gordon, where he talks about the rise and fall of American productivity,
right.
The one thing that he does trace, he's pretty skeptical about all technology, but there's this one phase of productivity gains in the mid-90s that he attributes actually to the PC and its penetration.
Right,
That is the only time, he says, that there was actually productivity gains.
And there was a detectable acceleration in productivity at that point, yeah.
And then you say, well, what was behind that? That's at least the way I'm going at it. I think that all technologies should propagate both consumption and creation. There needs to be some amount of equilibrium between the two. And if the last 10 years, I think, have been phenomenal in terms of creating, to pick up from Reed's phrase, a lot of joy, a lot of consumption, which is all good, by the way, which is great for the economy. It's great, after all, it's welfare.
It's what economists call the fun rather than the fundamental, right? In terms of
it is all, to an economist, in fact, it should be like, hey, it's all welfare and it's good. And the question now is, should we now have more creation? Should the next 10 years be about using technology to have a broader impact, and in fact also solving for what I think you also referenced, which is the surplus that gets created needs a different form of distribution. It can be limited to OECD countries. It has to be, even in an OECD country, be more equitable, because that's what's playing out even in our elections here. So those are, I think, some real challenges.
Let's quickly at AI before I want to move on to some more specific Microsoft issues. Again, this is another area where you hear about the singularity and all of these kind of interesting theories about where we are on the AI curve. Realistically, what do you think we're going to be? We're talking about driverless cars, we're talking about all of these other extraordinary innovations we're seeing. Again, whether or not they improve productivity, they are clearly going to change our lives. Where do you see, where are you putting, again, where are you as a company putting your bets and expecting, what are the kind of benefits that you're expecting, practical benefits you're going to get from artificial intelligence?
Look, I mean, it's an amazing age in AI. There's no question. This particular form of AI that has been miraculous in the last 3 to 4 years that are just yielding results which I had not dreamed of. And in things like speech, we just set the world record in speech recognition, which is measured by the error rate, or We have the current state of the art in object recognition, in terms of being able to take any arbitrary, image and to be able to recognize the objects in it. And it's phenomenal. I mean, human perception is just being translated into an algorithm using lots of data. But that said, there is, I think, AGI or when it will happen, I'm not going to speculate. I have no idea, quite honestly. But I do believe there's a set of design choices that we get to make. Just like with good user interface, people have had to make choices. I think with AI, there has always been this argument about whether it's about replacing or augmenting. I fall into the augmenting camp. I want Microsoft to fall into the augmenting camp, and that's where we put our investments. Now, having said that, how can we then apply AI? And going back to even your point about growth in the past, one of the things I believe there's an exhibit that we will have here for people to go see is a project, Premonition. It's an interesting research project. I think it'll take us probably 4 or 5 years to complete. But the idea is to say, let's create an early warning system for pandemics and epidemic breakouts. And in order to sort of go solve for that, what you do is you use essentially autonomous drones to take these new mosquito traps, because mosquitoes are the most natural drones. And if only you could detect the pathogens that are there in mosquitoes in the wild, your ability to go look at the spread of disease is that much better. And so to me, being able to apply all of your machine learning capability, your image recognition capability, your analytics capability, your autonomous drone stuff, to be able to sort of create a system like that improves health in an economy that's being impacted by Zika, would be a great way for us to make progress. Similarly, I would say what we're doing, even going to art. If you sort of say, well, if AI can be applied not just to replace humans or to augment humans, but to in fact help humans enjoy life, one of the projects which was very stunning to me was we took all of Rembrandt's works. I think he has around 160,000 or so fragments, analyzed them, and had the machine create the next masterpiece. Now, you could say, well, that is saying that you're going to replace one of the greatest Dutch masters. No, that was not the idea. The idea was to be able to say, can you inspire a new generation of artists by being able to bring someone from the past alive again? So that's another way of thinking about AI. And you can see the impact of AI as viewed through this lens of augmenting human capability, human enjoyment, human creativity, and that's at least the lens through which we will look at it.
Let's quickly again just go back to the more prosaic issues of Microsoft, some of Microsoft's strategy, if you like. Acquisitions. Microsoft has had a long track record of acquisitions, bluntly, not a tremendous track record of success. One thinks about Skype, one thinks about Nokia. The biggest one that you're associated with, obviously, is LinkedIn. What's different? Why is LinkedIn going to succeed where those failed? What's the strategy here?
Yeah, I mean, just for the record, Microsoft acquired PowerPoint. Okay. Microsoft acquired Project,
and I knew there was a risk that you would reel off a list of more successful
Microsoft
acquisitions.
has had a lot of successful acquisitions, but you're right. Look, I think acquisitions are tough, and at least in my case, one of the things that I'm very focused on is 3 things. Whether there's a real fit with that sense of identity and purpose. There's no point buying something that doesn't truly meet both our strategic focus and who we are as a company. Whether it's Minecraft or LinkedIn, those fit with who we are. And even if you think about even what, and then can we do something that is bigger and greater for not just Microsoft, but for the constituents. And take Minecraft. One of the things that I'm so excited about what we're doing with Minecraft is in education. because it's probably the best way to introduce both boys and girls in middle school to STEM education is through Minecraft because of its open world nature. And that's, to me, a very big part of how I think about it, and that's what led to LinkedIn as well. I mean, to me, LinkedIn is all about, we are a company that works with professionals all over the world, whether it's Windows, whether it's Office, it's about productivity. And the thing that Reed and Jeff have always cared about deeply is how can they make every professional in the world realize their economic opportunity. And so to me, it fits with the mission. And our goal would be to make sure that LinkedIn thrives going forward in realizing their mission.
You're comfortable that the regulatory challenge, Mark Benioff, of course, has been particularly vocal there, and particularly with the EU. Is that what's going on with, by the way, with you? You and Mark Benioff used to be thought of as having a pretty good relationship. What's gone wrong? Was it LinkedIn? Did LinkedIn come between you, and to use Robert's?
Look, to me, what we will do with LinkedIn, we want to make sure that LinkedIn thrives. And the existing programs that they have a pretty open ecosystem in terms of how you can integrate with LinkedIn. And that will continue.
Is it about the data? Is it primarily about the data?
I mean, look, whenever people say it's about the data, I look at it and say LinkedIn or Microsoft or anyone else who has data, they're just custodians of that data. I mean, you cannot sort of take it for granted that somehow that's your data. You have to sort of know that every member of LinkedIn only will let us have that data or have LinkedIn have that data if they see that they're good custodians of it and there's value in it.
You should talk to Facebook maybe about that, but they have...
And so to me, that's how we will approach it, whether it's because during this regulatory process, we are very clear about the principles through which we will run the company post-close. But we are very, very excited about being able to get through this process, and I'm pretty confident that we'll get through it.
We're going to wrap very quickly, but a couple of very quick points that are very topical. Cars. Everybody's building a car. Apple, Google, all the traditional car companies are still building cars and building new ones.
I'm very thrilled about all the car companies using Azure today. It's the best thing that has happened to us, quite honestly.
That's as far as it goes. I mean, it's not insignificant, but that's as far as it goes.
But quite honestly, that's our strategy. I mean, it goes back to our identity, which is whether it's Daimler or BMW or Ford or Toyota, they're significant customers of ours, and even in the very specific areas of AI, because in some sense, they're looking for a trusted partner who's not going to compete with them, who has the same capability, whether it's about image recognition or the cloud infrastructure, that they can be a trusted partner for them. And that's really what we're doing. And in fact, if you look at what Volvo is doing around self-driving cars, just before you even have self-driving cars, they're creating simulators for driver safety. And in there, they're using all of our cognitive capabilities. Uber is using the Azure's cognitive capabilities in order to be able to increase driver and passenger safety. And so to me, that's a great business to be in.
So final question, we'll wrap up here. Let me ask you about the Microsoft brand and your conception of the Microsoft brand. I think it's been said, fairly or otherwise, that Microsoft is a brand that Microsoft's a company that people feel they need. Microsoft's products are products that they need, but not products that they necessarily love. It's an old criticism, I know. Is that true? Does it worry you? If not, are you quite happy with it, or do you want to change it?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to change it. In fact, one of the pictures that we use to motivate ourselves internally at Microsoft is a picture of a person walking out of a store with an Xbox and hugging it. To me, that's a fan of Xbox. So we have brands inside of Microsoft that have fans. We have fans of OneNote. Believe it or not, we have great fans of Excel. I'm one of them.
And Azure. You have fans of Azure, and you have fans of
Of course. And you're absolutely right that the bar of
not so many fans of Nokia.
Of consumer products in particular is such that if you don't stand up to it, and not just once, but continuously, you will get punished for it. And so to me, the Microsoft brand has always stood for being the company that has got a bit of a utilitarian bent to it, which I think is a good one. That's who we are. We are, as I said, the company that stands for builders, makers, and creators, and that's the brand that we want.
And does it bother you that Microsoft is, as a brand, not its products, but as a brand, is not particularly known to younger users, to sort of people under 20? I mean, they're very familiar with Apple and Google and Facebook and Amazon. You ask them, and surveys have done this. People that, they may have some vague knowledge of Windows or Office or whatever, but it's not something that younger people. Is that something you need to change as these people become more affluent consumers?
But they'll know Minecraft, and they'll know Xbox. And to me, having a set of brands, a set of products for that demographic and for especially kids and college-going students is super important to us. And so yeah, we will. It's not. I don't want to sort of devalue a lot of other things that we do for different audiences, only to the exclusion of this.
And everybody's going to ask this question in the next 48 hours. AT&T, Time Warner, any interest? They're still open. There's still Microsoft has been mooted for all kinds of potential moves. Is this something that interests you?
I wish them luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking
Thank
Satya
you so
Nadella,
much.
CEO of Microsoft. Thank you very much.
Thank you.